They always ask me what broke me. Wrong question. The right question is what took me so long. See, I was not born this way. I was built this way. Brick by brick. Silence by silence. Wound by wound. And every single one of you handed me a brick. You smiled while you did it. That is the part that stays with me. That is the part that keeps me warm at night. You did not destroy a monster. Oh no, you created one. And now you are watching the news. Now you are locking your doors. Now you are checking over your shoulder in parking lots and hallways and all those quiet places where guilt lives. And you are asking yourself one question, just one. What did we start? I will tell you exactly what you started. You started me. And I want you to understand something deep, something you will carry with you long after this is over. I am not angry. I am not broken. I am not even dangerous. Oh, I am inevitable. And the most terrifying thing about me, I did not come out of nowhere. I came out of you. I remember the exact moment, not a day, not a year, an exact, precise, crystalline moment. The kind that does not fade, the kind that does not soften with time, the kind that sits inside your chest like a splinter you stop trying to remove. I was ordinary once. Oh, I know. Hard to believe, right? But I was. I had a name people said without flinching. I had a routine. I had mornings that felt like mornings and nights that felt like rest. I had this quiet, embarrassing little hope that if I was good enough, patient enough, small enough, someone would eventually notice. Not applaud, not celebrate, just notice. That was all I wanted. And for a long time, oh, for a devastatingly long time, I believed it was possible. I believed people were mostly decent. I believed the world had some internal sense of fairness buried somewhere underneath all the noise. I believed that if you bled quietly enough, someone would eventually hand you a bandage. I was wrong, not partially wrong, not almost right, catastrophically wrong. And the universe did not correct me gently. It did not tap me on the shoulder. It laughed at me, loud, public, without apology, and the crowd laughed with it. That is the thing nobody talks about. Not the cruelty of one person, not the evil of one moment. The crowd, the people who watched, the people who looked away, the people who chuckled just soft enough to feel innocent. You were all there, and I remember every face. Now here is where it gets interesting, because that memory, that specific gallery of faces, it did not make me bitter. Oh no, it made me curious. I started watching people the way a scientist watches a specimen, detached, patient, genuinely fascinated. You do this to each other every single day, I thought to myself. And somehow you are all still surprised when something snaps. I started noticing patterns, the way power moves through a room, the way kindness is always conditional, the way people smile at your face and file your pain away like an inconvenient receipt. And the more I watched, the quieter I became. Not sad, not angry, quiet. The way a city gets quiet before something enormous splits the sky open. Now here is the twist, the part you did not see coming. That version of me, the quiet one, the watching one. He was the most dangerous version, not the laughing one, not the burning one, not the one you read about in your newspapers with your morning coffee. The quiet one. Because the quiet one was still deciding, still choosing, still standing at the edge of something irreversible, with his hands in his pockets, and a small, almost tender smile on his face. And every single day, someone from your world, your decent, normal, civilized world, gave him another reason to step forward, another reason to let go of whatever thin, fraying thread of restraint he was holding on to. You kept giving. Oh, you were so generous. Nobody cares about you, the world said, not in words, but in every unreturned glance, every closed door, every room that kept talking after I walked in. And I listened. I actually listened. Most people fight that message. They build walls against it. They drink it away. They pray it away. They medicate the part of themselves that heard it too clearly. I did not fight it. I agreed with it. And the moment I agreed, the moment I stopped arguing with the truth of what this world is, something inside me did not break. Something inside me relaxed, like a jaw unclenching after years of grinding, like a breath let out after a decade of holding. And I thought, quietly, almost gently, all right then, if that is the game, I want to play. And I smiled. Not because I was happy, not because I was ready, but because for the first time in my entire life, I was free. Freedom is a funny thing. Most people chase it their entire lives. They save for it. They retire into it. They build white fences around it and call it a dream. But real freedom does not look like any of that. Real freedom is not warm. It is not soft. It does not arrive with music and golden light. It arrives cold, silent, and it asks you one question before it lets you in. How much are you willing to lose? And I stood there at that door, in that moment, and I emptied my pockets. Everything. The hope, the patience, the unbearable, humiliating need to be understood. I put it all down on the floor, and I walked through. Now people assume that was the moment I became dangerous. They are wrong. That was the moment I became honest. Dangerous came later. Dangerous came when I realized honesty, real, unfiltered honesty about what this world actually is the one thing the world cannot tolerate. You can be cruel here. You can be corrupt here. You can smile at a man while stealing everything he has ever loved, and the world will shake your hand. But stand up and name it. Stand up and say it plainly, clearly, without softening the edges, and they will call you a monster. Oh, I know. I laughed too the first time I understood that. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh that comes out when the joke is so dark, so perfectly constructed by the universe itself, that the only sane response is to fall apart laughing. So I laughed. And then I got to work. I started small. Not explosions, not chaos, not the theater you all love to talk about later. I started with observation. I watched who the city protected. I watched who the city discarded. I watched the distance between what people preached on Sunday mornings and what they practiced on Monday afternoons. And I took notes, not on paper, in here, in the part of the mind that never forgets, the part that catalogs everything filed under evidence. And the evidence was overwhelming. The city was not broken. The city was working perfectly. It was doing exactly what it was designed to do, rewarding the ruthless, punishing the soft, grinding the ones who dared to feel too much into something useful and then discarding the remains. I was not a glitch in the system. I was the system's natural conclusion. And that Oh, that realization. That was the twist I did not expect. I had spent so long believing I was the anomaly, the outlier, the wrong note in an otherwise decent song. But I was not the wrong note. I was the song. I was what the song had always been building toward. And the moment I understood that, the moment that truth settled into my bones like winter, I stopped being afraid of what I was becoming. I started being impressed by it, because it takes something extraordinary, something almost architectural in its precision, to turn a person who once wanted nothing more than a single quiet moment of being seen into the thing that makes an entire city turn on every light at 3 a.m. I did not do that alone. I want to be very clear about that. You built this, I whispered once, standing at a window above a city that was finally paying attention to me. Not to the version of me they invented in their headlines. Not the symbol. Not the cautionary tale they trot out when they want people to feel safe by comparison. To me, the actual me, the one who remembers every name, the one who kept score when everyone else stopped watching, the one who was quiet for so very, very long. And here is the part that should disturb you most. Not what I did, not what I am capable of, but the fact that somewhere, right now, in your city, in your office, in your building, there is someone else, someone quiet, someone watching, someone still standing at that door, with their hands in their pockets, and the world still handing them reasons. And unlike me, they have not decided yet. But oh, they are close. There is a specific silence that falls over a room when people realize the man they were laughing at is laughing louder than all of them. I know that silence intimately. I have collected it. I have curated it the way other men collect paintings or vintage wine or the small, hollow trophies of a respectable life. I collect moments. The precise instant the smirk disappears. The exact second the confidence drains. The hair's breadth between someone feeling powerful and someone feeling watched. That is my gallery. That is my museum. And oh, it is magnificent. But I want to tell you something about that silence, because most people assume it felt like victory. They imagine I stood in it, soaking it up, satisfied and electric and finally full. But that is not what happened. That is not even close to what happened. When the silence came, I felt nothing. Not relief, not triumph, not the warm vindication I had carried in my imagination for so long, like a promissory note the universe owed me. Nothing. And that, oh, that nothing. That was the most terrifying discovery of my entire life. Because it meant the wound was not on the outside, it was not in the city, it was not in the people who wronged me. It was not in the systems I had studied and mapped and learned to move through like a ghost. The wound was in me, deep, old, structural, the kind of damage that does not heal because it was not caused by a single blow. It was caused by 1,000 small surrenders, 1,000 quiet moments of shrinking, 1,000 times I swallowed something true because the room was not ready to hear it, and I had fed that wound my entire life without ever once naming it. Now here is where the story shifts, because most people, when they discover a wound that deep, they weep, they sit with it, they journal about it in soft lamplight. They pay someone $100 an hour to help them trace it back to its beginning. I did not weep. I leaned into it. I pressed my fingers into it the way you press a bruise just to confirm it is real. And then I thought, if this is what I carry, then let me use it. Let me make it mean something. Let me build something from the rubble that is at least honest about what the rubble is. So I did. I stopped pretending the wound was not there. I stopped apologizing for the way it shaped me. I stopped performing the version of myself that was palatable, digestible, safe for public consumption. And the moment I stopped pretending, the city got very, very nervous. Because the city runs on pretending. That is its entire infrastructure. Pretend the system is fair. Pretend the kindness is genuine. Pretend the man sleeping on the pavement outside your restaurant is a choice and not a verdict. Pretend, pretend, pretend. And I walked right into the center of all that pretending, and I refused. You are not decent, I said, not screaming, not raging, just stating it plainly, the way you state the weather or the time. And the city looked at me with those wide, offended eyes and called me the problem. Oh, that made me laugh. That specific laugh, the one that starts low and builds, the one that does not stop when it should. Because think about it. Think about the breathtaking, almost elegant absurdity of it. The city spends decades manufacturing pain, exporting it quietly into the lives of everyone it finds inconvenient, packaging suffering in bureaucratic language and calling it policy. And then one person stands up and reflects it back. And that person is the danger. That person is the one who needs to be stopped. I was not the danger. I was the mirror. And there is nothing a guilty city fears more than a mirror it cannot smash. I want you to sit with that, not for me, for yourself. Because you have been told your entire life that people like me are the exception, the aberration, the cautionary tale at the end of the story, the thing that happens to other cities, other families, other neighborhoods. But what if I told you, and I want you to listen very carefully now, what if I told you that I am not the exception at all? What if I told you that I am simply the one who stopped pretending to be the rule? And the most devastating part of that truth, the part that will stay with you long after this is over, is that somewhere in the quietest, most honest corner of yourself, you already knew that. You have always known that. You just needed someone like me to say it out loud. And now that it has been said, now that it is out there, floating in the air between us, real and irreversible, you cannot unknow it. That is not my cruelty. That is my gift. Let me tell you about building something, not constructing, not assembling, not following a blueprint someone else drew in a comfortable office with good lighting and a pension plan. I mean building. The kind that happens at 3 a.m. The kind that happens in the space between who you were and who the world forced you to become. The kind that leaves marks on your hands. I built quietly. That surprises people. They expect chaos to arrive loud, announced, preceded by warning signs and red flags and all the polite signals a civilized world likes to believe it would have caught in time. But I did not arrive loud. I arrived patient. And patience, patience is the most underestimated weapon in existence. Anyone can be angry. Anyone can break a window or raise a voice or make a scene in a room that is not listening. That is not power. That is noise. Power is knowing exactly when to move and spending every moment before that moment becoming unmovable. So I built understanding, deep architectural, almost loving understanding of how systems fail the people they claim to serve. I built awareness of every exit and every entrance, every pressure point, every carefully maintained illusion that holds a city's sense of itself together. I learned what people protect, not what they say they protect, not what they put in their speeches and their mission statements and their carefully worded public apologies, what they actually protect. And the gap between those two things, that gap. That was my foundation. That was the ground I built everything on. Now here is the twist, the one that reframes everything I have told you so far, because you have been listening to this and filing me under a familiar category, the villain, the anarchist, the broken man who burned things down because he did not know how to build them up. But what if I told you that everything I built worked? Not in the way destruction works, not in the crude, temporary, ultimately meaningless way of burning something to ash and calling it a statement. In the way truth works, because when I held the mirror up to this city, when I refused to participate in the collective performance of normalcy, people woke up. Not all of them, not even most of them, but enough to feel the ground shift, enough to look at the structures they had trusted their entire lives, and for the first time, really, genuinely look and find them wanting. I did not give people chaos. I gave people clarity. And clarity, it turns out, is far more destabilizing than any explosion. You can rebuild after an explosion. You cannot unsee the truth. I walked through boardrooms in my mind, through courtrooms, through the pristine, carpeted corridors of power where decisions are made about lives that will never enter those corridors. And I understood something that no newspaper ever printed. No revolution begins in the streets. It begins in the moment one person, just one quiet, tired, overlooked person, decides that the story they have been told about themselves is a lie. That was my revolution, not fire, realization. And I want you to understand the tactical genius of that, because fire burns itself out. Fire needs fuel and oxygen and favorable conditions. Fire can be contained, managed, suffocated with the right resources and the right response time. But a realization, a genuine bone-deep shift in how a person understands the world they live in, has no off switch. You cannot quarantine an idea. You cannot arrest a question. You cannot put handcuffs on the moment someone looks at a system they once trusted and starts laughing. And they are laughing now. Maybe not out loud, maybe not in public, maybe not in ways that would make the evening news or concern the people whose job it is to measure the temperature of a city's patience. But in the quiet places, in the private conversations, in the spaces between what people perform for the world and what they actually think at 2 a.m, they are laughing. And the laugh sounds familiar. It sounds like mine. And that is when it stops being about me. That is the moment I realized something that shifted everything, that changed the entire shape of what I was doing and why. I had been so consumed with my own wound, my own architecture of pain and patience and precision, my own very personal, very intimate war with a world that had written me off, that I had not noticed. I was not alone. I had never been alone. There were others, quiet ones, watching ones, standing at the door ones, millions of them. In every city, in every system, In every office and courtroom and kitchen and classroom where the gap between what is promised and what is delivered grows wider every single year. And they had all been waiting, not for permission, not for a leader, not for a plan or a movement or a manifesto printed on paper and handed out at organized gatherings with name tags and scheduled breaks. They were waiting for someone to go first, someone to say the unsayable, someone to stand in the full, unflinching light of what this world actually is, and not flinch. "I see you," I said once, to no one, to everyone, to every person who had ever been handed a brick and told to smile about it, and the silence that followed was not empty. It was full of people exhaling for the first time, full of people unclenching something they had been holding for years, full of the specific, dangerous, beautiful sound of a collective realization arriving all at once. And I stood in the middle of it, not proud, not triumphant, just present, the way a match is present in the moment before everything it touches becomes light. I never wanted to be remembered. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because everything you have heard, everything you have assumed, every headline, every profile, every carefully constructed psychological portrait drawn by people who studied me from a very safe, very comfortable distance, all of it rests on one foundational assumption: that I craved this, that the spectacle was the point, that the chaos was the goal, that somewhere underneath all of it was a desperate, howling need to be seen. And I am telling you now, in this moment, in this confession that was never meant to leave this room, that assumption is wrong. I did not want to be remembered. I wanted to be understood. And those two things, oh, those two things are as different as a scar and a wound. One is what remains after the world is done with you. The other is what the world is still doing. I never healed into a scar. I stayed a wound by choice, because wounds, unlike scars, still feel everything. And I refused, I absolutely refused to stop feeling. Even when feeling cost me everything. Even when the feeling was indistinguishable from burning, even when every rational, self-preserving instinct I had left screamed at me to go numb, go quiet, go small, I held on to it. That capacity to feel the full, unfiltered weight of what this world does to people. And I want you to understand something about that choice, because this is the emotional confession, the one I have never made cleanly, the one that lives underneath all the theater and the laughter and the carefully constructed exterior of a man who appears to need nothing from anyone. I was lonely, not the manageable kind, not the kind you cure with company or conversation or the warm, temporary anesthetic of human proximity. The structural kind. The kind that exists not because no one is around, but because no one who is around speaks your language. I moved through rooms full of people my entire life, and I was always the only one who could see the room for what it actually was. The only one who noticed the architecture of the pretending. The only one who heard the dissonance between the words and the meaning. The only one sitting at the table thinking, does no one else hear this? Does no one else see what is happening here? Is everyone genuinely comfortable, or is everyone just performing comfort because no one wants to be the first one to stop? And year after year, room after room, the answer came back the same. Perform, just perform. And I could not. I tried. Oh, and I genuinely, earnestly, humiliatingly tried. For longer than I will ever admit to anyone who has not earned the telling. I practiced the smile. I rehearsed the small talk. I learned the precise social temperature at which a person is considered warm without being threatening, present without being intense, honest without being inconvenient. I was a dedicated student of the performance, and then one day, mid-sentence, mid-performance, I just stopped. Not dramatically, not with a speech or a revelation or a moment worthy of a film score. I just stopped, mid-word, and looked around the room and laughed, soft, private, almost tender. The laugh of a man who has just understood a joke that took 30 years to reach its punchline. And that laugh, that was the beginning of everything you are afraid of. Now here is the final twist, the one I have been saving. The one that reframes not just this story, but yours. I am not telling you all of this to frighten you. I am not confessing because I need absolution or understanding or the particular comfort of being known by someone before the curtain comes down. I am telling you this because I need you to understand one precise, specific, deeply important thing. Everything I did, every wall I walked through, every system I exposed, every comfortable illusion I reached into and pulled apart thread by thread with patient, almost surgical hands. I did not do it to destroy. I did it to test. I wanted to know if any of it was real. If underneath all the performance and the pretending and the elaborate social machinery of a city that had decided what it was and who mattered and who did not, if underneath all of that, there was anything genuine, anything worth preserving, anything that would hold. And the ethical confession, the one that will stay with you, is that I found something. Not much, not enough to redeem the whole architecture, not enough to make me regret the testing, but something. In the most unexpected places, in the people the city had also discarded, in the overlooked, the quiet, the ones who had also been handed bricks and managed somehow not to throw them. I found something that looked almost like grace, and it stopped me, not permanently, not completely, not in any way that the city would recognize or credit or build a statue for. But it stopped me long enough to feel something I had not felt in years. Something that had no name I was willing to give it in public. Something that sat in my chest like an ember in a building that should have burned down completely. And I stood with that feeling, in the dark, alone, as always. And I thought, what do I do with this? What does a man built entirely from the wreckage of a world that failed him do with the discovery that the world, in its smallest, most human, most easily crushed corners, did not entirely fail everyone? I have not answered that yet, and that uncertainty, oh, that is the most dangerous thing about me. Not the certainty, not the mission, not the carefully mapped architecture of a man who knows exactly what he is doing and why. The uncertainty, the part of me that is still deciding, the part that found that ember and has not yet chosen whether to cup it carefully in both hands and protect it from the wind, or lean down slowly and blow. Because here is what I know about myself. What I know with the kind of clarity that only comes from years of excavating your own ruin. I am not finished, not even close. Then you triggered something in me that did not arrive. It surfaced. It was always there, underneath the performance, underneath the patience, underneath the long, quiet years of watching and waiting and cataloging and becoming. It was there from the beginning, from the very first brick, the very first room, the very first smile that did not reach the eyes of someone who had decided I was not worth the full expression. It was there, and now it is here, and now it is awake, and it is looking at your world with fresh eyes and an old memory and the specific, terrible patience of something that has already waited long enough to know that a little longer is nothing. So go ahead, lock your doors, dim your lights, pull your certainties around you like a blanket, and tell yourself the story of a world that is fundamentally, structurally, basically fine. Tell yourself, I am the anomaly. Tell yourself this ends with me. Sleep well, sleep deeply. Because the last thing I want, the very last thing, is for you to be awake when you finally understand that I was never the ending. I was the introduction, and somewhere in your city tonight, the quiet ones are reading this, and for the first time, they feel less alone.